Did you know that there is a whole list of hidden menus inside Google Chrome, as well as other Chromium-based browsers, such as Microsoft Edge, Brave Browser, and others? Many of you have probably already heard of the Chrome Flags menu, but there are plenty more with other purposes. In Chrome, you can see this list by going into the URL bar and entering chrome://about or chrome://Chrome URLs. And I'll also put what it's called in other browsers. They're very similar. Some of these links just take you to regular menus you've seen before, such as the Chrome settings link literally takes you to the regular settings menu. Same as the bookmarks and downloads links, but most of the other links can only be found in this list for development purposes. I'm not going to go over every single one because most of them are not very interesting, but I will focus on a handful of them that are either useful or you might just think are pretty cool. But if you are curious what they all do, I'll put a table here with all the links that don't go to regular menus and a short description of each, and you can just pause to read these. And fun fact, I actually asked GPT-4 to write these descriptions, but I did check them and they seemed to all check out. Anyway, let's get into the ones that I thought were notable. First up, we have the Chrome Task Manager, which actually is not one of the links here, but is pretty hidden nonetheless. If you press Shift Escape while Chrome is running, it will give you a list of all the processes used by Chrome and how much memory and CPU they're using up. So if you've ever looked in the regular Windows Task Manager, you may have seen that Chrome has a bunch of sub-processes, but it doesn't show the name of each one and what it actually is. But if you press Shift Escape and bring up the Chrome Task Manager, it will actually show you which extension each sub-process is. So if there is something using up a ton of memory, you can see exactly what it is and decide maybe to uninstall that. Now, the rest of these are actual links, and the first one we can talk about is the Interstitials menu, which is actually pretty cool. Have you ever seen one of those warning pages come up in Chrome, maybe for an insecure connection or a malicious site? Here, you can see direct links to all of those pages, including ones I've never seen before, like this clock is ahead or clock is behind warning. Here's another warning I've never seen before, which says this page may try to charge you money. And another one, fake site ahead, and it warns you for lookalike domains. So cool to see what other possible warnings you may get. The next link is very similar to the last one, except this one shows you a list of pages for network errors. So you might also be interested in looking through this out of curiosity. Moving on, we have the Site Engagement menu, which shows you how engaged you are with different sites. So the higher the rating, the more you apparently interact with that site, based on scrolling, clicking, typing, and other criteria. Apparently, I'm most engaged with Twitter, Google, and ChatGPT. I'm not sure what the bonus column is for though, none of mine seem to have it. I assume Google ends up using this kind of data for search ranking and stuff, but I'm not really sure. Next up, we have the Omnibox menu. You know that URL bar at the top where you can type in a URL or a search term or whatever? That's actually called the Omnibox, and the Omnibox menu basically gives you a ton of details about those autofill suggestions and how it determines what is most relevant. For example, if I type in hello and have the show results by provider enabled, I can see a bunch of possible results that it came up with. There are search suggestions like the song by Adele, Hello Kitty, Hello Fresh, and it seems like the search suggest entities are like known things, whereas the search suggest would just do a search. If I type in GitHub as another example, you can see it shows some pages I've seen before and says how long it's been since my last visit, and lower down it shows bookmarks that I have that may mention GitHub. Stuff like that. I guess it just takes all that into account and decides what you're most likely looking for based on what you're typing and just tries to put that near the top. And there are a bunch of other options and parameters you can mess around with, but I just wanted to give you an overview. All right, moving on, we have the versions menu, which you might think whoop-de-doo, it shows the version number, right? But actually no, there's two definitely notable things here that are interesting. First is this very long variations list. You may not have realized that Google runs a bunch of A/B testing on people's Chrome installations, where they may change one little tiny thing for some people but not others, and compare how that changes behavior, and then uses that info to decide what changes to actually implement in future versions of Chrome. And this list of active variations basically shows you which experiments you are part of and which version of it you're getting. I don't think you can see exactly what each of these things are doing specifically, but it's interesting to see how many different variations are going on at the same time. Next, I want to point out this thing that says command line, and this is actually huge. I'll probably make a whole dedicated video about it. It turns out that when you change a flag option from the flags menu, the way it activates or deactivates is simply by adding a launch parameter to Chrome, which is just like if you were to add your own launch parameters using a shortcut on your desktop in Windows. So you can see here there are some flags I enabled as a test, and they show up as these parameters in this command line info. Why does this matter? Well, maybe you want to create a shortcut on your desktop that launches Chrome with a certain set of flags, but you don't want it to happen all the time, only when you use that shortcut. Here's a flag I literally just found out about while making this video, which is the auto dark mode for web contents flag, which basically makes every website look like dark mode even if it doesn't have a native dark mode. For example, with it enabled here on YouTube, even though it's in light mode theme, it all looks dark anyway, because Chrome is doing an auto conversion of the theme basically. So what you can do is create a shortcut on your desktop, and in the target box, you put the corresponding flag parameter for that particular option. So in this case, the whole thing would look like this. And so now you have a shortcut that launches Chrome in an automatic dark mode. So you can use this at night, and the rest of the time you use it, everything looks normal. To see what parameters to actually use, you can just go into the flags menu and then temporarily enable the ones you want, and then just look on the versions page and copy that whole thing, and then put that in the target window, and then disable it back to default again. So that's just one example, but maybe you'll find other options that I hadn't thought of. Definitely let us know in the comments if you come up with something. All right, moving on, the next menu we have is the net export menu. This lets you log future network activity until you hit stop, and then saves it to a file. So for advanced users maybe trying to diagnose something, this could come in handy. Be warned though, this will generate an absurd amount of data. I only had it logging for a few seconds, and it generated a 6 megabyte text file that was like 30,000 lines long. Very large. Next up, we have the tracing menu, and this one seems pretty cool. What you can do is hit the record button, and then it has you choose from a bunch of possible tests to run. So you run it and then wait till either the buffer fills up and the recording finishes, or you can stop it at any time. And then it'll show you a bunch of graphs and results based on the activity that you did while it was recording. I'll be honest, I don't actually have any idea what I'm looking at here, but it seems clearly pretty powerful, so maybe if you know what you're doing, this might come in handy, or maybe you just want to mess around with it because it's kind of cool. Next is USB internals, which shows you a list of USB devices connected to your computer that Chrome can see. And if you hit inspect on one, it shows you a whole bunch of info about it. Again, I'm not really sure what you might use this for, but maybe if you need to find some info about a USB device, it might be easier to find it here than searching through the Windows Device Manager. Next, we have the User Actions menu. When you first open it, it's going to look totally empty, but it will actually log any actions you take across the whole browser. So if you open a new tab, you can see it now shows you pressing the new tab button and then changing back to this tab. If you click the settings drop down, it'll say that too, for example. So more of a cool thing. It might be useful for timing stuff since it does give you a timestamp, or it might be useful for troubleshooting somehow. I'm sure some of you may come up with a situation it might come in handy. Finally, you may notice in Microsoft Edge, there are a good number of menus that are not in Chrome. I'll show all the descriptions for these here, but I'm not gonna go over all of them, but there's not too many of them. You can just look through them yourself. So definitely let me know if you have some use cases for these menus that maybe not a lot of people would think of that I didn't mention. If you enjoyed this video, definitely give it a thumbs up for the YouTube algorithm, and if you want to subscribe, I try to make videos about twice a week, usually Wednesday and Saturday. If you want to keep watching, the next video I'd recommend is one I made talking about something you should do every time you download software that not many people even know about. So I'll put that link right there. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.